I had this notion, and I realize this predates airborne operations by a decade, but the thought crossed my mind that you could have had, if it weren't for World War II, if paratroop operations had been created outside of, World War II, that you might have had a British person who'd be like, what if we did a huge paradrop on Mount Everest? Like almost all these guys are going to die, but one of them will land on the top and then we can say that we did it.
Oh, I'm so happy you brought that up.
Oh, I didn't know this in advance. This was just me firing off ideas. So
I assure you, someone's going to think of that, and it's even dumber than you can possibly imagine. I'll just hold that thought. Now, Lady Houston invited Lord Clydesdale over for dinner, and he impressed her thanks to his wonderful table manners and because he wore his dress kilt. I also assume because he ate carrots from her hand without biting her.
Exactly. He resisted the urge to stomp her children.
Yeah, he's a very well-behaved horse.
He was restrained and didn't snatch the apples off the table until he was told he was allowed to.
Got to stuff this giant Clydesdale into the plane, make him wear goggles and a scarf.
Oh, what are you talking about? Gundam.
Everything goes back to Gundam. She agreed to dump money in the project after that, and the planes that were used were heavily modified biplanes because they needed enclosed cockpits with supplemental oxygen, heated flight suits, special fuel so it didn't get thickened or freeze from the cold and altitude. And this does succeed, but one of the planes does nearly fall out of the sky due to a problem with the pilot's oxygen line, and then he nearly passed out. But what I'm getting at is flying over Everest took years to plan, a wealthy financier, and an entire team of highly trained professional horse pilots to pull off. Wilson had none of these, but what he did have was a mind full of madness and a dream. Like I said, Wilson read these news articles and got inspired by them. So he decided, rather than come up with an idea of his own or just try to climb Mount Everest like normal people had so far, he would just try to kind of yes and the Houston expedition. Obviously, flying to the peak of Everest was now possible, so he could simply fly a plane to the summit, bail out, deploy a parachute, land, and then climb the rest of the way to the summit, all by himself. So yeah, the idea of the Everest paratrooper was invented by Maurice Wilson.
See, first of all, I'm glad he and I are enough of the same brainwave that I thought it, and you now revealed to me that he thought it. Another part of me thinks, like, I know people who would be like this guy in real life, but they have Facebook, so they just get really into Delta 9 THC gummies. Like,
yeah, he'd probably love those, to be fair.
Yeah, he probably would.
He doesn't keep these plans to himself either. He tells pretty much everyone he meets about them, and universally, they all laugh in his face and tell him he's crazy, which
sounds like he is.
He is. He's a little nuts. Now, there's a lot of issues here that I really feel like we don't need to go into as to why this plan is bad. But there is one small detail we probably should talk about, and that is Wilson has no idea how to fly a plane, nor has he ever parachuted.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, like, who's going to fly the plane if not him? And also, how does one get into parachuting this early on in the history of aviation, considering you didn't have, like, long hair having ass, like, metalhead guy and, rural North Carolina who's also really, really, really Christian who does like skydiving tours.
Yeah, and only has like 3 fatal accidents in his safety record. Yeah, that kind of thing did not exist yet, but if there's one guy you can believe in to find a way around it, it is Maurice Wilson.
Apparently.
There's a second large problem here that you kind of picked up on, is that, yeah, nobody would climb Mount Everest till 1954 when the two guys did it, but nobody would solo climb Mount Everest until 1980. So Maurice is well ahead of the curve on this attempt. From my understanding, there hasn't even been an attempt to solo Everest at this point, because doing it as an expedition is so crazy still. Nobody had done it. Everybody's still trying to find the correct route, the right camps, because there are quite a few camps already on the side of the mountains from other expeditions. So, like, the idea of soloing it is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, it was Randall
in 1934
who soloed it, and then he also did it without oxygen, but he didn't do that solo.
Yeah.
This is wild. Yeah, okay. I mean, I am laughing because Maurice Wilson, not too far from Murray Wilson, so there's maybe the possibility that he's secretly, because it's also California connection, maybe he's Murray Wilson's dad who ran off, and he's also the reason for the Beach Boys.
Yeah,
maybe he's the reason why Brian Wilson is crazy. Like, there's all sorts of opportunities here.
Ask Brian Wilson, a strange great-great-grandfather with one arm. See if it sends him into a fit. However, none of this stuff is going to stop him. First, Wilson would need to take flying lessons. And he does. He does very badly. During one lesson, he crashes his plane and nearly kills his instructor. And his instructor refuses to fly with him again. So he switches instructors to keep training. And even then, it took 2 times longer than normal before he's finally able to be given his pilot's license. And while we're on this subject, we should talk a little bit about what it takes to get a license in what is then 1933 Britain, because it really isn't much. It's also completely depending on the instructor of when he thinks you're good to go. But this could only take a few weeks to maybe 3 months at the high end. And as for solo flying, like time behind the stick, all on your own, 3 hours. That's all it takes.
I'm sorry. I'm listening to everything you say, I promise. I promise I am. I genuinely am. Because this is fascinating. But also in my mind, the gears are turning, as you can probably recognize the expression on my face. Mm-hmm. And now all I can think of is, I sure do miss heroin, but there's a Nepalese mountain. I think I'll go and climb it. If I could only find it. God, how I wish those bullets had killed me.
Second Homes album available now.
It is, yeah. My band that doesn't sing parody songs about traumatized World War I veterans trying to climb Everest. Our album is out, actually. It's called Find a Way to Hate It. You can buy it on Spotify. And I don't want to publicize it too much, but it's available on streaming too now because I didn't set the date far enough in the future on DistroKid. Sorry, I'm a fucking idiot, but it is available on streaming now.
But it's out now.
It's out now.
This brings us to another element of Wilson's plan. Everyone, even the guys who flew over Everest, took a ship to get there. Their planes would be packed up. Everything would be set up once they traveled to the Himalayas. And then and only then would they fly, right? Wilson planned on flying the entire way, which meant that he would have to fly further just to get out of his hometown than he had flown so far in totality. Something that was far, far beyond his abilities. He also has no real knowledge of how to navigate, because navigation then is like literally a paper map, a compass, and some prayers. He's got the prayers covered, but we'll get to that. First, we have to get to the parachuting, because he sucks at that too. This one isn't on him. Really, all parachuting back then is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, all parachuting now, unless you're using specialty parachutes, is kind of it's more a art of falling on your ass than a science.
Yeah.
And back then, it was just far more primitive equipment.
Yeah, a lot of people are injured. He begins hurling himself out of rental planes and nearly dying each time. From what I could understand from his diary entries, quite a few of the pilots did not know, in fact, that he was going to jump out of the plane when he did. He's just kind of like, surprise! What up? That's probably my favorite part about him. I love that he surprise parachuted on some motherfuckers. He had one hell of a reputation in the aviation community, if you couldn't already guess.
Yeah. Sort of the person who gets so mad they try to open the door of a moving car on the highway, except a plane.
I was like, what's in that giant backpack, Mr. Wilson? Oh, it's my lunch. Don't worry about it.
I'm really hungry.
I have the world's biggest sandwich. Don't look inside. On one of these ventures, he busts both of his ankles, and that's about the only thing that slows him down until they heal. And this is the only thing that happens that makes him change his plans, because he realizes, I probably can't parachute onto Everest, not because the idea is crazy, but because if I bust my ankles, I won't be able to climb the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who's dealt with serious injuries to both ankles, thankfully not at the same time, but in various aspects of military training, I have severely sprained either ankle. It's no fun. It sucks.
Yeah.
And then when you got to walk on it when they're busted, it's even worse.
And now imagine having an ankle injury like 6,000 meters up Mount Everest.
Yeah, cool. It's like, well, at least there's all this air I can breathe. Hell yeah.
Afterwards, he buys a used de Havilland Gypsy Moth biplane, a plane that entered production about 10 years before, and he named it the Everest, like rest with a W, meaning that maybe he wanted to suplex the mountain.
Everest. I will constantly be doing battle.
That's right.
With a mountain.
Doing hand-to-hand combat with the world's tallest mountain. This could only end in my victory.
I mean, this does start to seem like the internal monologue of like the 1930s equivalent of a guy with a stolen shopping cart full of like copper he scrapped out of a building.
Yeah, except he has a bit of money, right? Like it's kind of like that guy who built the sub that killed rich people.
Yeah.
Like if this guy did not have drug dealer money to buy a fucking plane and go to pilot school, he would just be a jabbering maniac on the street.